Hello, John aka Chicken Fillets here, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. So today's video is actually a 1K Q&A special. I put out a question on my community post asking for questions from everyone if they wanted answered from me. Funnily enough, it's the done thing when you make YouTube videos. So I have written all the questions that I received in my Sonic book. So without further ado, let's get on with the Q&A session with fillets, chicken fillets, yeah. So first of all, we have Luca from Fieto Gaming asking the question, when are you finally going to play Chrono Trigger? Yes, I know I've not played Chrono Trigger, Luca. The reason for me not playing Chrono Trigger is because I want it physically, and for me to get this physically in the UK, well, I don't have a SNES, so I can't play it on that. So the only other way I could play this is on the DS. Now, to get this second hand, you are looking at about £80 to £90 upward. Look, I've tried to get it via other methods, but all the time I try and get it, it doesn't work. I'm not wanting to play it on mobile, and for those wondering, I've said it many times in videos before, I do not have a laptop or a home PC. Yes, I know I live in the dark ages. So yeah, I want to play it. So Nintendo, if you're watching, give us a remake please, or a port. Thank you. Moving on, friend of the channel Tulman has asked a couple of questions here. Now, all of these questions are excluding Final Fantasy VII. So any Final Fantasy VII game. So Dirge Cerberus, I don't know why I relate to that, but anyway. So the first question is, what's your favourite JRPG battle system? Now, if I'm talking about action-based combat, then my favourite is got to be from Nier Automata. Platinum Games have basically solidified themselves as one of the best developers who have like amazing action-based combat. If I can't pick a Final Fantasy when it comes to turn-based, I would be looking at any of the Trails of games, specifically. I mean, Trails into Reverie is probably the most refined system that we have played so far, with that turn-based combat system where you can see who's next, moving them around the battlefield, etc. I really do like that. Second part is favourite JRPG soundtrack or song. Now, I would actually be saying my favourite song is from Final Fantasy VIII. See, just add 1 to 7. It is Fisherman's Horizon. That is a breathtaking song. Number 3, what JRPG do you have that seem to be... Oh, sorry. See, my handwriting is crap. What JRPG do you love that seem to be panned? Right, that's a hard one to answer. I would think, I'm looking at my DVDs, my games, etc. You see, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 2, although it's not critically panned or anything, it's the least favourite out of every, you know, a lot of people don't like that one. Tales of Zestria. Right, Tales of Zestria. I really like that Tales of game, but it's not really liked within the Tales community. Yeah, we'll go with Tales of Zestria. And number 4, what's my take on physical versus digital? Right. So, in my eyes, I prefer physical over digital in general, and there's myriad of reasons for this. So, physically, I like having games physically. That's just because when I started my gaming journey, you know, I have, for example, I've still got my Sonic the Hedgehog 2. You know, I've still got all my Mega Drive games. I've got my PlayStation 2, my PlayStation 1 games. These are mine forever. Now, with the likes of, I'll give you a prime example. Spec Ops has disappeared off the PSN and the Xbox stores, etc. So the only way to play this is if you have a physical copy, which I, funnily enough, bought years ago for like £2 or £3, and now it has skyrocketed. So this is a prime example of why physical is always better. And also, right, if I buy a game and I don't like it, I can trade it in. But with digital, let's say I buy something off the eShop, once I've bought it, and if I don't like it, well, I'm stuck with it. I'm not too sure what refund policies. I know Steam's pretty good. Like, you can play, like, I think it's like 2 to 4 hours, and then you can refund it if you don't like it. But for me, it's always got to be physical. Next question is from 90s Handheld Gamer. What would you say is the biggest highlight of your YouTube journey? Right, okay. For me, I mean, obviously hitting 1,000 subs. For someone who has got a channel called Chicken Fillets, this is kind of pretty funny that I got to this. In general, I think getting asked to do collaborations, especially when I got asked to do like my biggest one to date, which was with Taylor from the Gaming Shelf, and then I got asked by like Alex from Backlog Battle, the Kiseki Nut, and just generally like being able to work with all sorts of different channels, etc. By the way, I'll need to one day have 90s Handheld Gamer on the channel. So yeah, I think working with other, via collaborations, that's been a really big highlight for me, because it's built a massive sense of community. It's really cool. Now, Public Enema played. Public Enema has asked this question, right, and I've shortened it, but a Tombury King arrives at your front door with evil intent. Which 3 Final Fantasy characters would you summon to your defense, and why? Classic questioning from Public Enema. Right, so I have to pick 3 Final Fantasy characters. Well, you know what? The first person I would call, now it's not Cloud, it would be Barrett from Final Fantasy VII, because he's got that gun arm, so you're able to fire off all these Tomburys from a distance. Now, if you want someone close quarters, then I'll get Cloud Strife, because he could just omni-slash his way through everyone. Now, when it comes to the final pick, well, how about I pick Squall? Because Squall, for Final Fantasy VIII, he's brilliant, but he could batter them with his angsty personality. So next up, we have the other Scottish juggernaut in the RPG world. It is Generation Pixel. For fuck's sake. Question from him is, what's your favourite hat in a video game? Excluding Mario. Right. Just to give you some context with this. So, I got asked to be on a collaboration with Upper Nimbus, and this video was basically about Nintendo sidekicks, and I picked the Cappy from Super Mario, and Generation Pixel has never let this go. He was very surprised by this, and it has been an ongoing thing with it. So, he says excluding Mario's hat. Let's go with Luigi's hat. Next up, we have PJ Venom, and he asks, who are my favourite 3 video game characters and why, and favourite game outside of RPGs? So, I'm looking around my room once again to get inspiration, because I've got lots of models of all my favourite video game characters. Right, well, first of all, Sonic the Hedgehog is number 1, because, well, Sonic was my first proper game that I played. Then it has to be the ye old Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII. No shock horror to anyone there. Now, when it comes to the last one, you see, I want to come away from Final Fantasy. So who sticks? Right, Cat from Gravity Rush. Cat is ace, just an awesome character, and Gravity Rush in general is an awesome game. So there you go. And the other part there was favourite game outside of RPGs. Well, it's got to be Sonic the Hedgehog, because that is just basically the game that I was brought up with on the Sega Mega Drive. Now we have DJ Bob asking, what is something you'd recommend to someone visiting Scotland, and what do I think is overrated for visitors? Now, if you're unaware, I am based in Scotland in the UK. Okay, the new. Right, so what would I recommend to someone visiting Scotland? Right. I would say go out with the cities for your visit. So what do I mean by this? And this actually links to the overrated part. So I always find it quite funny when people say they've come to Scotland for a holiday. I just always find that bizarre. But I would say going out with your cities, going to the shires, etc., where you can see lots of castles. So the northeast of Scotland, for example, has loads of castle trails. It has loads of beaches, untapped, like lochs, etc. Lochs is the pronunciation. I've always got to make sure I've got the so lochs are massive lakes, so like Loch Ness, etc. So find that you've got a lot of nature that you could go visit. So the overrated parts for me, I mean, let's see it from a Scotsman's perspective. If I go visit Edinburgh, it is hoaching full of tourists. You know, and yeah, it's fine visiting, you know, your places like Edinburgh, etc. But go out there and try and find like sort of the castle trails, etc. Because there is some absolutely gorgeous landmarks around Scotland. So the next question is from Bloop at Joop TV. So what is my favourite weapon in a JRPG? Well, you'd be surprised to know that it's not the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII, although it is iconic and it is one of the favourite ones. My actual favourite weapon in a JRPG is actually the Gunblade from Final Fantasy VIII, Squall's signature weapon. The design is fantastic, I just love it. So yeah, that's my favourite. So 35 Infinite has come up with a question of what's an old console you'd always wanted to try? Now, I have been lucky in the chance I've played most of the consoles that I've wanted to play. The ones that I haven't actually played in general, I mean, I've not played like say your Jaguars or your old school Atari games, you know, anything before the Sega Mega Drive. I've not really played like sort of your I can't remember the Ataris or Commodores or whatever. So, I mean, it's not something I'd really go out and seek. But if you were to be asking, you know, what console I would like to add to my collection, well, that would be different, because one console which has eluded me, which I would really like to get, and I have played before, but it is the Sega Saturn. Now, I had a neighbour years back when I was growing up who had a Sega Saturn. I always remember playing Sonic R or playing Virtua Cop 2 with a light gun. You know, that would be brilliant to have in the collection. Upper Nimbus asking, should you play Final Fantasy VII? Yes. More to the point is Upper Nimbus has to play Final Fantasy VII because you've not played Final Fantasy yet. Come on! So next up we have Easy Mode Nerd, and their question is, what is the first game you felt passionate about or really connected with? Right, I have two games here. So the first one realistically would be Sonic the Hedgehog, which, let me get off my shelf. Yep, Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this is because, well, the Sega Mega Drive was really my first gaming console, so I had replayed this so many times. It is still one of my favourite games today, and Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, it's a massive part of my gaming life. Now, the second part is no surprise to anyone that, well, it's Final Fantasy VII. It's got such a significant impact to my gaming life, etc. You know, it just has shaped the way how I do gaming, etc. So yeah, that is my answer for that one. Thank you for the question. Next up, we have friend of the channel, Mad Kaiser, who is asking, where or how did you come up with Chicken Fillets as a name? And the second part is, what's a non-JRPG that you speak passionately about as much as Final Fantasy VII and Harvestella? Right. Okay, so the Chicken Fillets name. Why is this channel called Chicken Fillets? Right, so before I started doing YouTube, etc., my PSN gamer tag was my commenting name. Then folk tried to start adding me with it because I was leaving comments on like videos, and I don't know who these random people are. Why would you start trying to add people from comment sections? Anyway, so that was really annoying me. So I just basically I changed the channel name before I knew I was going to start doing it to what I had for my tea the night before. There's a chipper or a chippy or however you call it, near to where I live, and I had ordered that night a chicken fillet supper. So basically that is deep fried or battered chicken fillets, and I just thought, we'll go with that name, it's random. And in a weird way of doing it, if you think of it this way, right? My channel doesn't have any sort of link to gaming, etc. It felt like once I started, it was like, it's a unique name, it's going to stick somehow. So yeah, there we go. And the other part of the question is, what's a non-JRPG that you speak passionately about as much as Final Fantasy VII and Harvestella? So, I'd think about this one. Now, looking around my shelf once again to get inspiration for this, there was a couple. Now, I've spoken a couple of times about how Sonic has had a big part, but I was also thinking about, like, if I were to link this to the actual channel itself, well, it was actually my first video, which kind of broke like 400 views, or like you know, once I started getting double figures, was actually related to Sonic 06 of all games. I'm not passionate about it. Gravity Rush 2, Gravity Rush, I love talking about that games as well. A lot of people, I can get away with it because some people classify that as just an action game. So yeah, there you go. So we have friend of the channel, FemProTrooper, asking the question, as a fellow parent, I know how hectic it can get to be. My handwriting is awful. Let's try this again. As a fellow parent, I know how hectic it can get. Oh, for God's sake. As a fellow parent, I know how hectic it can be to get in game time. Yes, I got there. How do you balance and manage time with games as a parent? Now, as some of you may know, that I am a parent, I work full-time, etc. So the way I manage to game and to do YouTube basically is around my work schedule. My work schedule's totally different from a 9 to 5, and it's because I am predominantly a handheld gamer. So when it comes to the wee man, when he's in his bed, then I will sit down on the sofa and play like some Nintendo Switch, the PS Vita, etc. And when, for example, my shift pattern, like I will get time to sit down and play PlayStation, etc. So that's how I'm able to do this, YouTube, and play my games. Thank you for the question. Now, next up, we have friend of the channel, Shinky, asking, do you like Harvestella? Yes. Now, apologies if I pronounced the username wrong here. So it's Rosalind Letice. Again, I'm sorry for my pronunciation. If you follow the channel, you know that my pronunciation for a lot of things is utter garbage. So they have written, congrats, how did you get into JRPGs and more broadly gaming in general? So let's start with the gaming in general. So I was brought up with the Sega Mega Drive and I played many platformers like sort of Sonic the Hedgehog. You can't see what I'm pointing to, but all my Mega Drive games are up there. So like sort of those games I was brought up with. Then the PlayStation came along and playing the likes of Final Fantasy VII. Now once I started growing up a bit, I became more of a casual gamer. And I came away from like sort of your RPGs. I used to play like sort of Grand Theft Auto, Tony Hawk's, and WWE. But coming back to JRPGs was down to Crisis Core Final Fantasy on the PSP, because I started getting back into gaming because on my lunches at my work, I was starting to play mobile phone games quite a lot, like Minion Rush. Grand Theft Auto 3 I actually completed on an iPhone, would you believe? So I had an old PSP and I started playing that, and then it started spiraling because I had built with JRPGs in my head that all JRPGs had to be like Final Fantasy 7, 8 and 9 where you had a world map, etc. Like Final Fantasy 10, when I was younger, I didn't like it because it didn't have a world map. Yes, I know, utterly ridiculous, but Crisis Core broke down that wall for me, spiraled things out of control for me, with getting a PS Vita, and then from there playing Persona, and then starting to seek out more JRPGs. I hope that answers that question there. Now we have another friend of the channel, and I am sorry if I butcher the username. So it's Ruin Esper, and they have written here, what kind of recording setup do you have? So likes of basic gear, editing, etc. And another part is, what do you look for in a RPG, story, world exploration, music? Congrats on the 1K. Well, first of all, thank you for the congratulations. It's always great to see you in the comments. Right, so you may have picked up earlier on that I said that I do not have a gaming PC, a laptop, etc. So how do I actually do this? Well, I do this all on my mobile phone. So I have a Google Pixel 6a, and I use a free program, a free app known as InShot. Now everything is done through that, would you believe? I use a thumbnail creator, which I have been able to create like pips or green screen stuff, where so when you see things popping up on the screen, like saying, you know, new videos, etc., you know, I've created them on a thumbnail maker, then I've animated them via InShot. Now the reason I've actually learned this program so well is because I used to, well, I still do, I would make memes that I would send to my brother and my band. So for example, there's a rule of thumb with the Julian Year, which is my band, where when we get sent a new demo, it doesn't get a seal of approval unless I put the music towards a dancing meme. So like, you know how you see like Bollywood versus hardstyle, for example, you see those sort of videos. My doing this all the time, you know, I was able to use this, and everything that you've seen from all my videos, from collaborations, I can do this all on my mobile phone. It's absolutely insane. And I think even if I do get a laptop in the future, I'd still do it on this, because it means that, you know, if I have a spare 5 minutes, I could quickly work on a video. Like I could, for example, if I get asked to do a collaboration, for example, I could quickly film something. I could get all the trailers that I need for it, screen recorded, plonk it in, and done. You know, I like to be quick with these sort of things. So yeah, it's all kind of a learning process with these sort of things. But yeah, that's how I do it. Now, the second question is, what do you look for in a RPG, story, world exploration, music? So, stories, a big thing nowadays. You know, it's all fun and, you know, it's all fine when, you know, everything else is there, you know, great battle mechanics, etc. Actually, this has just come to mind, so I'll give you an example. Right, Fire Emblem Engage, right? So this game, and if you like Fire Emblem Engage, that is perfectly fine, right? So the game technically is gorgeous to look at. The combat system is great, you know, mechanically it all works, but the story wasn't there for me at all. Like I just could not connect with the story. Music, nothing stood out with me music wise, you know. So the reason like Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is so memorable is it's such a well composed video game soundtrack, and like the remake, for example, the rearrangements, etc., they're all standout tracks. And like Persona, for example, you know, most folk who played RPGs will know like the battle music from Persona 5, because, you know, it's such a catchy beat, etc. So music's very, very big. Now, because I broke down the walls with world exploration, you know, world exploration's not the biggest part anymore for me. I mean, it's always good to have a hub world. I like those sort of things. So, you know, I'll link it back to Persona. So Persona 5, you've got Tokyo and you can go around that. Whereas, you know, Final Fantasy 7, once again, you've got a world map. So, yeah, I think story's a big part of it. Music is definitely an important thing, and that might just be the musician side of me talking. But yeah, so there we go. So next up, we have Average Stylish Action Enjoyer asking, what's your favorite action RPG combat system, and do you like action games out with of RPGs? So what's my favorite? Well, I mentioned earlier about Nier Automata. I think Nier Automata has the best action-based combat system, but I don't know if you want to class it as action, but as a hybrid system, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and from what I've played of the demo of Rebirth, you know, that is a fantastic, absolutely fantastic combat system. Now, do I like action games out with of RPGs? So if I'm relating, see, I was trying to figure out what this kind of meant. So if you're talking about, let's say, Souls-like games, I'm not great with Souls games. so Bloodborne, etc., Dark Souls, they look fantastic, Elden Ring, etc., but I'm not great with them. I think it's because of my patience with games, because I don't have a lack of time to be able, if I start getting frustrated with a game, I'm going to put it down. If you're talking about like some fighting games, etc., like action games on that sort of scale, well, I don't really play a lot of them, if that makes sense. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers that question. You can all, if you want to correct me down in the comments, and I can get back to you on that one. Next up, we have Angela Dowling asking, do you actually like chicken fillets? Yes. So Gabe from Goforth asks and says, congrats on the 1K subs. What or who inspired you to start your YouTube channel? Right, okay. So this comes down to 3 people. So I had been toying with the idea for doing YouTube for a long time. But I actually came down to 3 people. The first one being my wife, aka Mrs. Phillips. She had been sick, because I've been talking to her for a while saying, you know, I'd like to do this, but I don't know, I just couldn't do it. Like, I just didn't know how people would respond, etc. Then Eric Ladd, he had said, I became friends with him via his Discord, etc. And he's, you know, he was egging me on to do it as well. And James from the Review Ting, once again egging me on. So I just, one day I had some time spare before I was getting away from my work, and I just decided to film my first video, which was, should you play Final Fantasy VII? And it was only like 2 minutes, 3 minutes long, and it was basically filled with memes, but it still pushed me to do it. And ever since that, I've kind of made it a point to try and release 1 video per week. So that's why I've got like loads of videos, because I kind of made the self-imposed rule to do 1 video per week. So yeah, those are the 3. Next up, we have Inferno Fox Gaming asking, what was the most difficult experience that you had in a video game? Straight off the bat, it was the first time coming up against Safer Sephiroth, you know, the final boss of Final Fantasy VII. Oh, I remember playing that and experiencing the supernova attack for the first time, and my little brain was like, what is going on? And just like, I thought I was doing really well up until this point, but he just whacks you with damage so hard. So that was like one of the most difficult situations I've been in with gaming for a very long time. Coming up to now, I mean, because I know what I'm doing with most games, actually, Octopath Traveler, this has such massive difficulty spikes, and it's a game that I love but hate at the same time, because the grind, like, I started this second playthrough recently, third, whatever. I recently restarted it, and I was getting really well into it, and then I came up against a boss and just kept on getting my arse handed to me, so there's that as well. Yeah. Now we have Zoo from Flipping the Switch asking the question, what has been your favourite video looking back? The video that you are personally happiest with? Now, weirdly enough, it's actually the first video that I ever put up. Just because if it wasn't for doing that, I wouldn't have actually carried on from doing, well, I wouldn't have started the channel in general. And because of that, I always look back at it to see, I always actually I go back to this video quite a lot to kind of prove to myself how far I've come since then. Because you'll even I have put this camera on a shelf, right? For some reason, instead of having my phone on a shelf, like I've got like a basic light, ring light, which I got from Home Bargains, but I put this on a picture frame on a wall here, facing my Trails of Cold Steel poster. And like little things like making sure like the camera was in the right place, or the way that I talk to the camera, because that's one thing that like I struggled with at first, is actually like getting like it's weird when I'm in the house like and I'm talking to a camera, it's getting that kind of connection, like understanding this is how I should present myself, etc. So it's nice to know, like, go back and look at it and go, this is how I've done and this is how I've moved forward. And I mean, other things I've been proud of is, I mentioned earlier on in the video, is the collaborations. That's been a massive thing for me. And it's always great seeing, like, so, you know, having big channels like The Gaming Shelf, Alex from Backlog Battle, TKN, etc., David Vink, and then having other channels likes of Cold Nights Gaming, who's another fantastic channel, having Milla's Game Room, Lord, Eric Ladd, the review thing, and if I forgot to put you in this whole list of people, you know you've been on my videos and you know how much you mean to this channel. So next up we have the big bruv, who's in my bad books just now because he got his copy of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth 2 days before me. We love the big bruv over here. So he is asking, what was your favourite game from your childhood that got you into gaming? So as mentioned earlier, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is the game which got me into gaming in general. Going through my actual gaming life, I mean, I could pinpoint other games. So on the Xbox was Mass Effect. Mass Effect was a series that I made sure I bought on day one. And it's really a game I should talk more often about, because Mass Effect, and you can always see, like, I've got a Mass Effect. Yes, I know it's Mass Effect Andromeda, but yeah, I like that game. You know, so there's various games, but I mean, pinpointing the one which started it all, you know, it's got to be Sonic the Hedgehog. So next up we have is Cosmic Star, and they have asked the question, what 5 games would you recommend anyone looking to get into JRPGs? This is a very, very good question. I should really make this into a video, but because Cosmic Star has asked this question for this video, well, let's answer it here. So let's start off now. I want to let's put something here. Let's make this a self-imposed thing where I do not add in a Final Fantasy game, because I could just say Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy, you know, that's a cop-out answer. So right, looking at my shelves to get inspiration, because I'm doing this mainly off the cuff. So if you're looking for a action JRPG, well, first of all, Nier Automata is the action JRPG that you should play. It has got an amazing story, the cast of characters is brilliant, and you could play this on the Nintendo Switch, on PC, PlayStation, etc. It's widely available, so it would suit your playstyle as well. If it were to come to a short, easy RPG, then Super Mario RPG. Now, although, see, this is one that I have no nostalgia for, but because it's Super Mario is a well-known character, and it is a really family-friendly RPG, that would be a good one for a turn-based one. If you're looking for turn-based, I mean, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, let's talk about The Legend of Heroes. Now, I started off with the Trails of Cold Steel. Now, Trails of Cold Steel was and is a fantastic series. If you want to go starting from there and work your way back, yeah, you could, because it depends on what you're looking for graphically, because Trails of Cold Steel is 3D, whilst I would highly recommend Trails from Zero. That would be another one. Looking at the shelf, okay, this is another cop. I don't want to make this a cop-out one, but if you're wanting an even more basic RPG, then a Pokemon game, because this could be a gateway to playing more, because I have, you know, I played Pokemon when I was younger, and there is a plethora of Pokemon games. Pokemon is one of the most recognized, actually is the most recognized game in the world, you know, so you've got that as well. And personal favourite, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. There you go. Final question is from Welshie974, asking the question, have you attended any gaming conventions and which one would you like to go to one day? So First part is, no, sadly I've not been to any gaming conventions. Up where I stay, there's not really that sort of thing. I mean, they do get Comic Cons, but it's not something that really, you know, gaming conventions. I know that actually there was one a while back, but it was all like, I got told it was made in like VR headsets kicking about in old school PCs, etc. And there was like overpriced games for sale, etc. If you asked me a few years ago, E3 was one I would have loved to go to, but I know, for example, there was KupoCon recently, and if it's all Final Fantasy related, I would have loved to go to one like that. So let's go with KupoCon for that question. So there we have it. That is the Q&A with Chicken Fillets. Thank you to everyone who submitted their questions today and allowing me to, you know, give you all these videos that I do, you know, and you have made this channel what it is, you know, and it's just still amazing to me that I've hit 1k subscribers, you know, for a channel which is called Chicken Fillets. Yeah, it's insane. So if you want to help me keep growing the channel, well, you know what I'm going to ask for you to do. Please like, share and subscribe to the video, and if you want to be kept up to date with everything Chicken Fillets, well, hit that notification bell. Now this has been John, aka Chicken Fillets, and until next time, tatty bye.